what happened to you?
Well, I was driving along the M25 on a very busy Saturday afternoon. 2 children, 1 wife, 2 dogs in the back, and suddenly all my power went. You know, you get a sort of spaceship movie when the lights go out, and I was just jump like this. And I was in the fast lane, obeying the speed limit, and all I could do was just glide the car across into, well, what I thought was going to be the hard shoulder, but there was no hard shoulder. There was simply, you know, a line of moving traffic. Car was dead, look in the rearview mirror, and behind me is a juggernaut. And I'm thinking, all I can do is put my, you know, safety lights on, hazard lights on, and pray.
But for anyone who hasn't been on a smart motorway before, you are not on a verge, you're not on a hard shoulder, you're not in a separate lane. You are literally in the near side slow lane of the motorway.
You're in a live lane and you are totally reliant on the fact that the juggernaut driver is not looking at his phone or is half asleep.
Yes.
And, you know, when you see that...
And has enough time to stop behind you.
And, you know, all you can do is pray and put your hazard lights on. And the next thing you know is that you're either going to be hit, like various people have been hit and they're no longer here to tell the tale.
All right.
Or he pulls over.
Peter Roger, you're from I Am Road Smart charity. What is smart about this? It sounds utterly ridiculous.
It's not ideal, but the alternative is even worse.
Why?
Because if we don't have the road capacity on the motorway system, what happens is the traffic goes off onto other roads.
Yeah, but the first priority of any road system should be safety.
And the motorways are far safer, and the smart motorways
Well, how do you explain this, then? The number of near misses, an incident with the potential to cause injury, on one section of the M25 has risen 20-fold since his hard shoulder was removed in April 2014.
And what's the
in
number
the 5
of near
years
misses
before,
on the alternative route?
In the 5 years before, 72 recorded near misses, rising to 1,485 in the 5 years after. That's not smart, that's stupid.
That's not brilliant, but what's the alternative?
Not brilliant, it's unbelievable.
The alternative...
20-fold increase
the alternative
in serious incidents.
If I can say something, the alternative is...
Well, you can't, just don't call it brilliant.
The alternative is that traffic goes off onto the local road system where the road safety risk is even higher
Peter
still.
Roger, why does the alternative have to be the local road system? Why can't it be to build another lane? Because what they've done is converted the hard shoulder into a live lane, whereas surely, although it might take more money, the option would be to create another lane on the motorway.
If we'd had the money, you're quite right. And in an ideal world, that's what we would have done.
But
sadly,
38 deaths
38,
in 5 years
38 deaths
is the price that we have paid. And that's a price that's too high to pay.
38 deaths is a horrendous figure. But what would it have been if they had not
Well, I tell you what, the person we just saw in that report would be alive. Both people in that report would be alive if they hadn't been on a smart motorway.
Tell me.
There was a Highways England report in 2015 that actually said that smart motorways will have to involve this thing called trade-off, in which we change one set of risks for another set of risks. Now, that is basically playing with people's lives with an algorithm. So if you tell the parents of Dev Naran, 8, who was killed on the M6, your child was killed on a smart motorway because, you know, his grandfather had to stop in a live lane. Now, that's not going to cut any ice with that family. So what you're doing is you're changing one set of risks for another, and common sense tells you that if you're stopping on a live lane, it's going to be more risky than stopping on a hard shoulder.
There's the whole idea of being trapped on a motorway. I wasn't even really much aware of this until it became a big deal in the last few weeks in the papers. But I drive a lot on motorways. The idea of being with my family and my young daughter and having to do what Guy did and then discovering there's nowhere to safely stop and you're at the mercy of drivers behind you actually seeing you.
All those things are very true, but if you've ever been stopped on the hard shoulder of a motorway, you would also be saying, that's not very safe and not very pleasant.
But at least it is recognised as a hard shoulder, and at least you have the ability to leave the car and, you know, leave your vehicle. In most cases.
In most cases, there are places to do that, and in many cases on the smart motorway system, you can leave.
But there are 1,000 metres apart.
Between, well, more, gaps between the refuges are too long.
That's one of the two things that has been got badly wrong. One is that the gaps have been extended too far. The trial smart motorway was the M42 in the West Midlands. And that was done with much more frequent refuges and surprised us all because it turned out to be safer than what had been there before.
Well, what a surprise. If you can pull over into a refuge, you're going to be safer than if you're in a live lane. I don't know why this is...
By the way, for those asking...
safer than it was when it had a hard
For those
shoulder.
asking, the Transport Secretary Grant Shapps has conceded that the stopping points are too far apart. We would love to have asked him more questions about that, but Grant Shapps, rather like his other cabinet colleagues, too cowardly to come on Good Morning Britain and answer questions about this. So people have been dying on these new smart motorway areas, which were brought in by Grant Shapps' governments over the last 10 years, and they don't want to defend it on air. So just put that on the record. We did ask. They're just too gutless to come on and talk about it. Guy, what's the answer here?
Well, the answer is a big pot of white paint, and you just paint that all the way down lane 1, and you then call it a hard shoulder. It's that simple. It can't be that expensive to reconvert them back to hard shoulders. And I think the other problem is there's this enormous reliance and faith in new technology that cameras can instantly spot a broken down car and close off the lane and everybody's going to obey. One of the problems with smart motorways is that it assumes that all drivers are smart, and that's fine if they are.
They're not.
But, you know, most drivers, as you know, you did a survey with Auto Express in which you were looking at people at a road
A lot of
junction,
drivers are idiots.
and you were seeing drivers behaving appallingly.
Yeah.
They have to be
That's the problem.
the lowest common
You're
denominator.
creating a smart mechanism for, you know, a bunch of Stephen Hawkins running around in cars, even though he couldn't drive, ironically. But there is actually no smartness that I see on the roads. I see a lot of stupidity, a lot of arrogance, a lot of people driving recklessly, badly. We know this, and yet we try and introduce a smart system which actually very few people are smart enough to even understand.
And again, part of the problem, as Guy says, there should be all this technology there, but the technology hasn't been put in place, and we would be a lot further forward.
Peter, but if there is 1,000 metres between the signs, you're obviously it's enormous risk if you break down midway and somebody's already coming towards you. It doesn't
Terrifying.
matter
Tell me about
whether
it.
they've seen the
Well,
sign.
that scene you were in, that
tell me
fills
about
me with total horror. And you cannot, I mean, no one can tell me that is a smart system that allows someone like Guy with his young family to be stuck there with a juggernaut bearing down on them, and you're just playing Russian roulette as to whether that juggernaut...
And you've got a
plows into you.
system that is under review, and yet it's still in place. I mean, if you had a fridge in your house which was about to spontaneously combust,
Totally
you would
agree.
get rid of it. You wouldn't just wait for
Well,
the review.
Grant
to take
Shapps is the man in charge. Like I say, he's been ducking questions today, won't come on and talk about it. So we'll see what he does. But, you know, everyone who dies on a part of the smart motorway in this country from today onwards, it's on his watch. And he is accountable for that. So, Mr. Shapps, if you have got the guts to come on the programme and talk about it, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to get reassurance from you that our viewers are not going to be on, effectively, a rolling death trap until you sort this out.
Peter, Roger, rationally, you can defend it on the statistics, but emotionally, it's indefensible. If you, personally, were with your family, you broke down exactly like I did, on a live lane, you'd think completely differently.
I possibly would, but...
Oh, you definitely would. Come off it.
I would rather...
You know this is not a
deal
smart
with
system.
10 of those than 15 or 20 in exactly the same end result because the traffic has moved on to a less safe system.
Put the hard shoulders back and build more lanes if we need
It's not
capacity.
smart, it's stupid. And we can all see it's stupid.
A spokesperson for Highways England told us in a statement, any death on our roads is one too many, and our deepest sympathies remain with the family and friends of those who lost their lives. The Transport Secretary has asked the Department for Transport to carry out at pace an evidence stock take to gather the facts about smart motorway safety. We are committed to safety and are supporting the department in its work on this.